Okay. All right. So let's talk about getting reviews. I'm going to skip over some of this here. Um, this is just something fun. I was looking up crazy reviews and I saw this and I thought it was kind of hilarious that this was like a real thing. And that is reviews for a Wheelmate laptop steering wheel desk. Has anybody ever heard of a laptop steering wheel desk? And the first one says, it's okay, I guess, but the bumpy road makes it hard to type. And there's a lot of pedestrians and traffic that keep distracting me from my computer. I don't know that this is a real thing. But then I saw the last one. It says, I'm using it right now to post this review and I never probably shouldn't drive with a laptop steering wheel desk. But anyway, the point is people look at reviews for everything. I look at reviews before I buy almost anything now. I go anywhere. We were just buying a slide for Tom built Haley like a fort out back, and like certain slides, there were two pieces and you're putting them together and they're like, oh, they're really hard to assemble and you got to drill extra holes. And I was like, next, right? Because I'm reading what it says about it. If you go out to dinner, if you're gonna buy cookware, I mean, it really doesn't matter. You're looking up to see what those reviews are, and people are doing the same thing for us. So there's different parts of all of that. There's what is the review, and then there's the questions that people ask, and then there's the opportunity to respond to reviews. So there's all these layers to reviews. I thought this was just cute and sort of entertaining, which is, it says, will these milkshakes bring all the boys to the yard? And they answered, I could tell you, but I'd have to charge. Now, if you don't get that, then you have to kind of sing it. Will these milkshakes bring all the boys to the yard? I could tell you. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to sing it for you guys. But anyway, the point is there's layers to it, right? So there's getting the reviews, there's questions that go on with reviews, but then there's also responding to reviews. And we have a great opportunity in our world with responding to reviews and having that interaction. And what we're going to talk about today are all the layers of reviews. Why do we want to get them? Where do we want to put them? How are we going to get them? And once we've got them and we've caught up, and now we've got all these reviews and we've got a process for putting them in our flow on a regular basis, now we have them. Now what are we going to do with them? They're just going to be on Google. They're just going to be on Facebook, because I think there's more you can do with them than just that. Okay, so that's where we're going today. Are we all good? All right, let's rock. Seth Godin, I don't know if you've ever heard of Seth Godin. He's authored many books. Shoot, why does this keep doing this? But one of the things he said is that, and you've heard Pete say this, you've probably heard your managers say this, and that is people want to do business with people they like and trust, right? Know me, like me, trust me. And a lot of that comes through reviews. And I'll tell you guys that even if you get a personal referral, someone says, you need to use my agent, you need to use Amy Davidow, you need to work with Amy. Those people are still going online and looking you up, right? They still are. They're like, oh, okay, Amy Davidow, clackety, clackety, clack, 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 clack. And they're going to look up and see what they can find out. And there's real validation. One, they got the validation from the friend, but the next validation comes in seeing how other people felt about the experience, how they felt they were treated, what were other people's story. And there's huge influence in that. There's a lot of trust built into that. I would tell you that I have a lot stronger feeling when I go on to buy something about what the consumer said about it than what the company said about it. The company says, our product is the most awesome product ever. And the consumer, and I read 10 reviews that said, this product sucks. Which one am I trusting more? The 10 consumers that said it was terrible, not the company that's trying to sell it to me, right? But if I had 7 reviews that said, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be. Yeah, I loved it. It totally worked. And there's a couple people who was like, yeah, you know, it was about the same as any other I tried. And then one person was like, oh, it was terrible. Well, now I'm building trust with this product. I'm thinking that's probably pretty good, right? But I am trusting more on the reviews, and I don't know about you guys, than what the product is saying about itself. So, and I don't think I'm the only one that's like that. Right now they're saying today, these are current numbers, that 90% of consumers read online reviews before visiting a business. If it wasn't impacting their belief system or their choices, why bother? I mean, why bother? I don't do things just because to waste time. I don't think most of us do. So clearly it's influencing them on their choice and their decisions. So having these online reviews are important. They're going to be important in validating. They're going to be important on the decision that these consumers make. And this right now is a great opportunity to get our processes in place and maybe catch up. 88% of consumers trust online reviews as much as a personal recommendation. You know, and those of you who have been in training with me before, and I'm not going to act like I came up with this. I took it from my Yoda, Jackie Leavenworth. She said the first thing that when someone calls you at first contact, you say, may I ask, how did you get my name? The reason I ask is most of my business comes from referrals, and it's very important I know who to thank. And in my business, most of the time, it would be a referral from my farm. But when it wasn't, I will tell you guys, they were online. I was searching, I was reading about agents. They read reviews. That's where it came from, if it was not from my farm or referral. So those consumers are trusting those online reviews as a personal recommendation. And we do the same thing when we read about restaurants where we want to go on a vacation, right? We read what other people experience and we trust their review, just like a friend said, this is where you should go. And it's interesting because a lot of these, you know, maybe Zillow would be like Yelp can be for, you know, what salon or spa or what restaurant to go to. That's what Zillow is for home buyers and sellers. I don't think we think of it that way because we're realtors, like we're in our own heads. But for buyers and sellers, that's what Zillow, when they read those reviews, that's the space they're in. It's like going to, what am I trying to think of, guys, for restaurants? My brain just like fizzled up. Like when you want to, Yelp, right? Like you want to, like you're on Yelp and you're looking at all these restaurants, right? You're very trusting. This is oh, it's right in front of my face. Thank you very much, Grace. That's a community where you expect that kind of information and you trust it. Well, it's the same thing with Zillow, right? It's a small community. Now, they also tell a story based on quantity. So there's quality and quantity. Now look at the amazing product. It's got a 4-star review. It has 1 review. Okay, so does that count? Not really, right? 1 review. It could be like somebody who works there or their mom. I don't know, but there's only 1. So that's not really validated. But look at this one. 2,600, and it's a 4.5, it's almost a 5-star. You get that many reviews and you're almost a 5-star. I don't even have to read it at that point, right? I'm trying to buy a bird thing. I don't really care. I mean, it's that high of a rating. That's crazy to have that many reviews and be that high. So it's clearly consistent. So it's the quality and the quantity. I want you to know you're going to get bad reviews. There are crazy people out there. You can't control crazy. And if you've been in real estate longer than a year, you know you can't control crazy. Just let it go. It's like Frozen. Let it go. It's going to happen. Most of these places you can't get them off. What's the best 4-letter word in real estate? Next. right? You just got to move on. So I'm just letting you know that when you start to go down this road, once in a while, you're going to come across a whack job who's going to go on and and it happens because you guys read this stuff when you're reading other reviews. You'll go to a restaurant and it's like, it's amazing and the people are great and the food's so good and it's wonderful and wonderful. And then somebody writes, you know, this scathing, awful thing. And you're like, were they in the same place? Right? So it happens. So just be prepared for that. Okay. 68% of millennials trust online reviews. Well, who's moving up into being the buying population? One of the biggest numbers of buying population. So getting this built, this bank built online of online street cred is hugely important. Okay. Consumer reviews are trusted, more trusted than descriptions that come from the manufacturers, nearly 12 times more. So what if you have no reviews? Right? If your reviews, and they're assuming they're good reviews, they're 12 times more trusted. That's strong, right? So that's why we want to have those. So where do we want to have them? Now, this is not an exhaustive list. Clearly, there's more places to have reviews. This is what we're going to focus on today. There's, real estate online portals. Whichever ones you want to use. I'm going to focus on Google, Facebook, Zillow. Zillow automatically populates Trulia. So that's a two-banger, all right? You could have it on your own website. Realtor.com. Yelp, which for me personally, I don't see that as strong of a place. And then Rate My Agent, which I'm excited about. We started working on that with our MLS, I'm going to say 9 months ago, and they just adopted it. And so it comes with your MLS membership. There are some upgrades to it you can pay for, but the main piece of it is doesn't cost anything, the main part of it. Okay. And I'll tell you how to leverage it. So let's go to Google first. I know for the agents in my office, I've been talking to them a lot over the last few months, but even over the years about having your Google business set up. And I'll just fast forward real quick to here. This is what it looks like, if you're like searching on your phone and the result when you do Google My Business. So you could type in Google My Business. If you have never set it up, you need to set it up. And for you guys, it's going to be your name. So it'd be like Grace McCurry, Realtor, Coldwell Banker Vanguard. And the address needs to be your office. Don't put your personal address. The address needs to be your office. And I just want to point out while we're here, you can see on here, it says overview, photos, posts, about. Guys, fill that stuff up. You can put photos of your listings. You can put photos of areas, like you can post photos, and don't leave the photo named 12753 JPG, because that's not searchable. Nobody's looking that up. Name it, because it has SEO, search engine optimization. Okay. But you can post listings to there. You can post, pictures, information. Make sure your links aren't broke if it's going to go to your website. But this is where people are searching. Are they not? How often are you searching? I'm an Android user. Okay, so I know don't be hating, but I can just look at my phone and say, okay, Google, and I tell it to search stuff all the time. And then I say call, and it calls. So make sure you're set up, make sure you exist, make sure all your information's there. So Google can be a really strong place to have your reviews. So if you haven't done the Google My Business before, it will send a postcard to the office, and it's going to have a verification code that you're going to have to put in. Okay. It's just another slide of like what it looks like on a desktop. This is for the Kim Knapp one. You can see here like 670 views, and I did the screenshot last fall before I went to NAR. And so you can maximize that if that's where you want to put them. You can't You're not going to be able to say, I'm going to have all my reviews on Google Trulia, Realtor, but you're not going to be able to be in every lane. You have to decide where you're going to focus. Most customers are not going to want to log into all of these to do reviews. Facebook requires you to log in, okay? A company cannot populate your Google review on Facebook. Facebook requires someone to be in their Facebook account and make a review. Google requires someone to be in their Google account and authenticated and make a review. And so does Zillow. Someone I was talking to yesterday about this within our own company, was trying to work with somebody on something like this. And the reality is they can't circumvent having to be in an account. Okay. Now for realtor.com, you can paste your reviews onto realtor.com if you want to. You can copy reviews from one place and you can put them on realtor.com. You can take your reviews from Facebook and put them on your own website if you want to. So that's why I'm saying it's going to be difficult to get people. I do have one good idea for you today, though, to get people to go to 4 or 5 different places and put these in. So decide maybe 1 or 2 places where you're going to get your maximum value. All right. I thought this was really interesting. The real estate boutique, I was like, holy cow, they've got 120 reviews. 120. I had never really focused on Facebook and getting reviews. I don't know if anybody else has, but it seems like now would be a good time. A lot of people are spending time on Facebook. Would you not agree? So if you have now would be a good time if you wanted to send some private messages to your people and say, hey, I don't know if you're spending a little extra time on Facebook, but if you've got a minute and wouldn't mind giving me a review, I would appreciate it. So this might be a good opportunity to do that. I will tell you on Zillow, reward you for having reviews. You could go to Fleming Island, go to Zillow and look up agents in Fleming Island. And I will tell you the first 3 pages will be dominated by agents from Coldwell Banker. And if they're not from Coldwell Banker, they probably were from Coldwell Banker for a long time, or they were trained because we put some emphasis on this for a long time. And what happens is if you've got the reviews, the people across the top of the page pay to be there, but the people up and down, those are people that get rewarded based on sales and reviews. So you get your reviews. This is in Pensacola. I took a screenshot, but you get your reviews up and you'll come up organically. So that's where the reward comes in. Love them or hate them, it is what it is. So on the right side of the screen, you'll see a screenshot of being logged in to Zillow, where you could put in your customer's email address and Zillow would send them an email. You could customize it for them to do a review. I don't suggest that's the way you do it. Okay. And there's an arrow there where it says, send request. Okay. Do you see just under that, it says send the client a direct link to your review form. Okay. I'm going to make it bigger. Remember where it said send request? Under that, it says send the client a direct link to your review form. I recommend that you go there and do one of a few things. One is you can take that direct link, you can make it a hyperlink in an email if you want to send it out after the closing. I'll give you an example of one that you can do in here, and you guys will get a copy of this so you can look at it and you'll be able to actually get, I think you'll get the recording of this if you want to watch it again. But you could send it via email. But I'll tell you, when I was teaching in, where was I? In San Francisco, I had an agent. I was the last day and I ran into her like on the street and she was like, oh, I was stuck here. I wasn't leaving until like at night. And so I just popped into your class and she said, I sat there and I took that link and I texted a bunch of people while I was sitting there, while you were teaching the class, and she had like 10 or 15 people respond right while she was sitting there. Done. Did it. Done. she was like, it was worth the whole thing, just getting that. So, you know, and I hadn't thought of that, but just text it, say, hey, if you got a minute. And I had someone in the last session this morning say she gets a great response by texting it to people. So that's something to consider. You know, if you can't, you know, get that link from your phone, you know, just log in on your computer and email yourself the link, and then you can access it from your phone. Okay. Any questions about any of that? Yes, you can copy and paste to realtor.com. Yep. Okay. Now, all right. So you kind of have some ideas on where, you know, Google, Facebook, realtor.com, Zillow populates to Trulia. But you may be saying, okay, that's all great, but like, I'm not even really been doing this. So I'd like to get like 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 right now. So let's share some ideas on that. This is what I did when I first got started, when I realized I was a little behind it. I just sent out personal notes. I went out and bought 50 Starbucks cards, and I sent them out, and I just said, hey, you know, can I ask you a personal favor? More and more people are making a decision on who they want to do business with based on their reviews. And I'm behind the 8 ball on collecting reviews. I'm sending you a link through email requesting a review on Zillow. And I want to thank you in advance for your time. Here's a cup of coffee or tea on me, and I appreciate you. And I went from like none to like 30 in a week, which was a big deal because it made the difference from not being on the radar at all to, you know, moving, you know, halfway up the group. So that's just one idea. You could text it. You could say, I'm going to send you a text, whatever, but I got a huge response off of that. I don't know if anybody knows Craig Wilburn. I thought this was brilliant. He was at bar camp, and I was in a session with him, and he brought this up, and I'm like, can I tell everybody? And he said, yes. He did this whole thing where my team is cooler, and he's got hashtag my team is cooler, and he gave away a Yeti cooler and had the whole thing set up like, how do I win? Leave a 5-star review on one of these sites. And he gave away, you know, different 2 tickets, 1. You could do it however you wanted to. They got 10 tickets if they did all of these places. And I thought, you know, this is probably an opportune time to do something like this because people are just noodling around, right? They're at home noodling around on their computers. So, or on their phones or their iPads or whatever. I like that he had a hashtag to go with it. But wow, what a neat idea to all of a sudden get your reviews in multiple locations. I don't even know that I would bother with the realtor.com. I would probably just focus on those main 3. But anyway, I thought it was a neat idea. Julianne asked, she doesn't mind me mentioning, she says, are you only able to request reviews from business you closed? On Zillow, yes. But on Facebook and Google, people can give you reviews like recommendations. So if you're newer in the business, someone on Facebook could say, I've known, you know, Claire for 10 years. Maybe they never bought or sold a house with Claire. I've known Claire for 10 years. She's honest. She's a good person. She's reliable. You know, I would recommend her to anyone, right? Somebody could do that. So if you're newer in the business and saying, you know, I don't feel like I'm in a position to be able to get as many as I think, you know, could really help me, then just go to the people who are on your team, who trust you and want to see you succeed, and ask them to do that. And I'm sure they'd be happy to do that for you. Right. Yeah. Right. But so David was talking about like not being able to do the rental. They won't be able to do it on Zillow, but have them go to Facebook. Have them do it on your Facebook business page. Create your Google business page, and they can give you a review on there because it doesn't have to be tied to a property. Speaking of tied to a property, this is Rate My Agent. It does have to be tied to a property, but this is a cool product. I like this. So Rate My Agent connects into the MLS all of your sales, right? Buyers, sellers, they're all in there. You guys have access to this. All right. So imagine, I'm going to show you the next page and then come back. This is what it would look like. You would have all your properties, and then anyone who gave you a review, their review would be there. You could click on it. You could, it would expand. You open it up, and now they can have the property. They can look at the pictures. They can look at the virtual tour, see the information, and what the buyer or seller had to say about working with you. This is a freestanding URL. It has a domain. You could email it to somebody. They could search and find it on the internet. So what if you had this, you had 20 reviews in here from sellers, and you were going to go on a listing appointment, and part of your email that you send out prior to the appointment confirming the appointment, if you sent this, and they could review and look at that and actually see properties that you've sold, look at how you present the properties that you've sold, and see what people had to say about working with you. I think that's strong, right? So I think you should take a look at that. I think that's free. Now there's freemiums if you want to pay for other stuff, but that you don't have to pay for. All right, you guys like that? Let me see if I got any questions in here. No. Thumbs up, anybody? Do you like that feature? Okay. Now, I'm going to go back. This is also, you can also do this, doesn't cost anything. You can share that on social media. So you could share those reviews, share it to your business page. Then if I were you, I would share it to my business page. You can have it automatically share. You can schedule it to share, or you can choose to share. And then I would then go in and share it from my business page to my personal page. All right, but you can make it, yes, they just approved it. And I'll have to go in and look, but it should be under, I can't think of it right now. It's the section where RPR and InfoSparks and all the other extra showing time, all the tools we have. I can't think of what that label is. But so anyway, so you could do that. Now, where does the cost come in? So you can see here where it says promote. Can you guys see my cursor when I do that? Okay, so you can see where it says promote. So if we were to click on a listing on your site, now we could open it up, and here's what it would look like. So you'd open it up, you can see the listing. Now you can see a map or look at the photos or the video. You can see information about it. You can read the review. Now the consumer wouldn't see this, but there's this promote button here, okay? You can click on that promote button, and that's where you could do Google Ads. And if you look on this other side here, there's a Rate My Agent ad that's showing up on Jacksonville.com. All right. So you can decide, using Google AdWords, where you want it to show up, how much you want to spend. It's similar to Home Snap and other things like that you can use. That's one piece. Then there's another piece. Last I checked, it was $39 a month with only a 1 month commitment at a time. So you didn't have to do it for a certain period of time. That you could, so say you had a special listing that you wanted to really razzle dazzle and impress them. You could sign up for that, and it'll put together a pretty impressive listing presentation for that property. And it puts together the other properties that you've sold and what people had to say about working with you in a really impressive format. So if you were competing and it was worth the $39 to put all that together in an impressive package, it might be worth doing for the $39, but you don't have to commit for an ongoing period of time. Apps. Okay, yeah. Is that what it's called, Clark? Apps? Okay, I couldn't remember. Thank you, Clark. I was like, my brain. All right. So we talked about the letter, the note card, and the Starbucks card. We talked about maybe running a campaign or kind of a contest or a promotion. We talked about Rate My Agent. some different ways to kind of get moving fast. I will tell you, if you have questions, you can ask Carrie about it. Carrie was my beta when we were working on this for MLS. And when I was trying to decide whether or not I was going to talk about it at NAR in November. And so Carrie set it up, and also Carrie was trying to get going on having her own stuff, right? Because so many of the things were, had been under me. So like for Zillow example, all those reviews were under me, not under her. So now she's having to decide what she's going to do and build her own stuff, right? So she did this, and she had a really great response, and she, so you can, feel free to talk to her about that. Okay. So now going forward, the question becomes, okay, so how do I start making this a part of my process? And instead of this being about, catching up and, getting 10 or 15 or 20 or 30, or 40 or however many, how do I make this a part of my process? There's no one way to do this. You have to decide which way works for you, but you just need to have a way and then do it. Okay. It could be, I'm going to ask for the review at closing. Some agents do that right at the closing. They'll sit down maybe while you're waiting on funding. That may not work right this minute, but as things get back to normal, right? But, maybe asking for the review at closing. I've had people say they do it at different checkpoints. They might say, after they've gotten through the inspection, they'll say, oh, we just got through the inspection. I'm so glad. It's good. We're moving along. Hey, I just want to ask you guys, a lot of people, they make a decision about who they want to work with based on, their reviews. I'm really enjoying working with you guys. I'm wondering if you could take a minute and maybe do a review for me. There's no, they may be really excited. They got the house. They wanted multiple offers. The inspection went good. Maybe that's a good time for them to do it. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. But just know that you need to decide what that is and have a plan and be consistent, right? For me, I've tried it lots of different ways. I decided in the last 4 years, I started doing the review after I gave them chocolate. And I found that people, for me, in my experience, kind of right at closing, right around closing, they're just like, because there's so much going on that they're just not dialed in. So a CRS instructor actually in St. Louis sent me these chocolates because I sent her a referral, and I was just really impressed with them. And they're made by a company called William Dean. And I was like, these are the coolest things. I don't even want to eat them. And it turns out she's in St. Louis, right? Turns out they're from Florida. So I was like, oh, how cool is that? So made it kind of easy. And so the boxes, they have a variety of boxes. They're like jewelry boxes. They're super cool. They send you a notification when when the order goes out. They send you a notification when it's delivered, which is very helpful because you're wanting to time what you're going to do, right? And especially, so I had an assistant that was helping with all that. But, if you're by yourself and you're trying to remember all these things, that gives you a prompt, right? Because you get an email that says, hey, your chocolate was just delivered, right? So now you just got prompted to know oh, okay, time to take care of that review. So I use this as an example because I had these customers about 2.5 years ago or so that so I sold a house to them in Fleming Island. It was a little over 1.3, which in Fleming Island, that's, not a common, thing to happen. And they had lived there 12 years and they'd had a house for 25 or maybe 30 years in Ohio. I didn't realize it at first that they hadn't sold a house in 25 or 30 years. I mean, I just felt like they were selling this $1.3 million house that they were experienced home buyer and sellers, but they weren't. Okay. That was the first thing. And the second thing was they both had PhDs, and he was in nuclear medicine and she was in statistics. Can you guys process that for a minute? People hadn't sold a house in 25 or 30 years and they both had PhDs and this kind of stuff. You know what it was like? It was not, it was difficult. That's all I got to say. It was difficult. And I say all that to say this. This was the response I got from her when I sent her chocolate after the sale. I about fell out. Kim, OMG. I've never heard her talk like that. She talked like, hello, Kim, this is Martha. You know, very, very serious all the time. And when she started out with a text that said OMG, it made my heart glad, because I'm like, okay, she's normal. But I'm just saying it makes a strong impression, and we got a really good response. So I just thought I would share that with you. Okay. So I would say let them know you're going to be requesting a review, and just ask for it. You know, call once the review's been sent. Thank them again for working with you. Let them know to look for it. If it requires another attempt, this came from another agent. Again, guys, we just take ideas and spread them around. And she said, email that you're asking them for the review, and offer a $5 Starbucks card. And then I said, I don't know that I would do this last one, but hey, whatever works for whoever. One last try, email asking for the review, offer a $20 restaurant gift card. So, oh, I lost my cursor. There it is. So do, you know, whatever works. But for that agent, that worked for them. Make sure you say thank you. That goes a long way. So this person took the time to do something for you that's really going to help you in your business, and understand when they do that review for you, that review like stays. It's like a building block in your foundation, and then someone else builds, and someone else builds, and someone else, like, you get to keep that. So say thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. You know, call them, text them, whatever, write them a note, but you need to acknowledge that. And then if they do it on Google or certain, you know, Facebook, there's some places, Zillow, where you can respond to that and say, I loved working with you guys too. We had so much fun. It was a great adventure, whatever you want to say. It needs to be real and authentic or whatever, but interact with them. And then people get to see you being you, which is also another whole part of all that, right? So make sure you respond to the reviews. Okay, here was an example. Let me move this. Of the email I had talked about before, where you could take the link from Zillow to send people the, why is it going that way? The link to you. So on one side, I got this from actually Lee Brown years ago. So on the one side, it says, happy with the services Team Knapp provided. Please take a moment to tell us what we did right. Click the Zillow icon below. And that would go straight to Zillow. And this was just saved in my drafts. Okay. And on the other side, it went to a form in my, website. If we did not meet your expectations, please tell us what we could have done better by clicking on the feedback button below. And somehow it's lit up right now for some reason. I don't know why, but you can see the link. Can you see that? Is it lit up for you? Where it says teamknapp.com/your-review. That's the URL that it's going to, and it's actually a form in the website. So if you kind of want to control where they're going, and again, that was just in the drafts in the email, and you could just use it over and over again. All right. Nope, no questions. You guys don't have any questions. You guys are easy peasy. I'm just trying to, you guys can't see this screen that I'm trying to move around because it gets in the way. Can you? You can't see it. Okay. All right. Power Testimonials is another company. They do something similar. So they will say, would you give Clark, how many stars would you give Clark? And they will give Clark 5 stars. Grace says 10 stars. If they'll give Clark 5 stars, then they let them go forward in the direction of where you tell them. Meaning if you say, I want all my reviews to go to Zillow, or I want them to have a choice of 4 different places, and these are the 4. It'll let them pass the gate to go to those places. But say they go 3 stars, then it won't let them go there. It'll it'll send them to a different direction to fill out basically a form of information that they give to you on, why they couldn't give you 5 stars. Power testimonial, we'll do text messaging and emailing. You can tell them, resend it once after 3 days, send it twice, or whatever. You can set that up, but that's just another option for you if you wanted to kind of automate it a little bit. All right. So now we talked about ways to catch up if you haven't been doing it, to start to put it into your process, to make sure to respond. And now that you've got them, what do you do with them besides just have them online? That's good, but you could be doing more with it, right? And so we're going to run through ways that you can implement them into your marketing. This is something that I learned at Ninja, which I took after I was no longer selling. So there was no, going back and changing, my marketing because I didn't have any anymore. But what I learned, which I thought was smart, was having purposeful reviews that were speaking to different personality types. And you'll see in a few minutes, I have a slide of a Zillow brochure, which was an idea that I got at a conference maybe 3 years ago. And I think there might be like 8 reviews in there. If I were to redo that brochure today, I'd probably just have 4. And that's, let's, for example, and we don't have time today to go over the whole DISC profile, but a D, that's going to be somebody who doesn't want to hear about the journey. Give me the details, straight to the point, fast paced. So they might be appealed to say, Doug was on time. He was, very detailed. He did what he said he was going to do, and I knew I could count on him, right? That kind of D person will be like, good, that's what I'm looking for, right? So, but that might not appeal to someone who wants to hear, the one thing about Dina is I just felt the entire time that she really listened to me and understood what was important to me, answered my calls, even sometimes, at night or whatever, but that person who needs to be, a little more snugged, right? So there's these different personalities. And once you have enough reviews, you can kind of pick through those and decide, okay, like I said, we don't have enough time to go through the whole DISC profile now, but with those different personalities, what would appeal to them? And you're going to get this presentation, maybe we could do something, or Clark, we could do something just on that. Because I really do think that was a great addition from Ninja. So with that being said, I would incorporate it into my listing presentation. If someone gives you a review, you don't have to, if they say they write a paragraph or 2, you could use 1 sentence if you want to. You can pick out 1 sentence that you feel like makes sense with what you're trying to say. Hold on. I'm trying to move this chat box out of my way so I'm actually going to close it for a minute. All right. For example, on this one, it says, the road to getting your home on the market. And I kind of go over the different steps of, what we do. And I'm talking to them. I'm not reading this to them. I'm talking to them. This is upside down, but I'm pointing at what I want them to be looking at. I'm hoping that they're reading that, which is just, Team Knapp knows their business. They do exactly what they promise, because I'm talking about our plan at this point. This is our plan. We had more showings in 3 days after we signed up with Team Knapp than in 7 weeks with our previous realtor. Okay, so I'm talking about the plan. That's what I want them thinking about. So be thinking about, are there a few sentences or things that you could take out of some of your testimonials that could make a point that you want to make? So choosing your realtor. This page, I'm not going to read these questions to them. I'm talking about, why it's important, things that are important about choosing your realtor, but I'm hoping they're looking at this as I'm kind of pointing to it. Her expertise in negotiations easily justified any commission earned, right? So I'm hoping that they're reading that while I'm talking to them about the importance of choosing the realtor. So clearly that wasn't the whole testimonial. It was just part of it, right? But I picked the part that I wanted to tell the story I wanted to tell. This talks about, your first showing is online. So again, if you want your home sold, listen to her advice, follow the unique package. This one was kind of a before and after. We were the second agent. I talk about, staging and why it makes a difference and professional photography and all of that. And I do actually point this one out to them. We had our house in the market for 8 months with a different realtor. Kim Knapp got our home listed, and within 3 days, there was a contract. I cannot tell you how professional, knowledgeable, and personable she is. So again, letting someone else tell that story than you telling it. So just a few other examples of just places that you could integrate it. Just be thinking about how you might be able to use it in your presentation. A personal brochure is something that is not that you can create with just some information so people can feel like they can get to know you a little bit. It should not be filled with accolades and all your awards and all the production that you've ever done in your real estate career. People don't want to hear about all that. But what it should be is a way for them to get to know you a little bit. And I would include some, testimonials in that. This is something you could send out to your farm once a year. You could send to your sphere of influence. You could send to prospects. You could send to for sale by owners. You could send to expireds. You could send in a relocation package. But I would include testimonials and something like that. Okay, I lost my view here. All right. I'm going to go to this one. If you were doing just sold postcards to a neighborhood or letters or whatever. So in this neighborhood, I sent this to his neighbors. So the neighbors could see what he had to say. What I wanted to point out was she has my strongest possible recommendation. Like I said, and send it to their neighbors. So just another way to use testimonials. This is the market maker that Concierge Services does. They've been doing it for me for, I don't know, probably since it started, how many years ago it started. And I know this could be used for an ad. I would actually use it for a review of the month. Again, just letting someone else tell the story instead of say, hey, you want to know how great I am? And when I get done telling you how great I am, well, I can tell you one more thing about how great I am. It's kind of nice to let somebody else tell the story, right? This is an idea that you can certainly R&D, rip off and duplicate. And whenever you sell a house, send us right after closing, we called it a flutter letter. Is say, hey, we just sold this house and this is what these people had to say about working with us, and then, hey, if you want to, want information about real estate, give us a call. Same thing. So we would send that out to like 30 houses around wherever our listing was. And the reason it was 30 is because one page of labels is 30. And so, but if it was my farm, we would do 60. But if it was not in my farm, we'd do 30. And it was templated and we just send it out over and over. So go meet your new neighbors. And here's what the people had to say, your neighbors who just moved had to say about working with us. And, we'd love the opportunity to earn your business. So feel free to rip that off and duplicate. We would also send, just as a side note, to the same people when we would list a house, we would send a letter to them. So they would get 2 communications from us every listing. We would send a letter to them that said, hey, in an envelope, what your neighbors did last night. and it would tell them about the listing. So they would get 2 communications from us, the same people. And then if you do an open house, then they would get a 3rd. So definitely doing something that none of the other people in that area were doing. Your email signature, that's another place that you can put it. And you can change it out periodically. Just something kind of, it's just kind of just subtle and back there, something nice. Instead of saying, the biggest compliment you could ever give me is, referring, just put something nice there, right? I'll tell you, this wasn't even in here talking about, I guess it's about referrals, not reviews, but instead of doing that, like the biggest compliment you could ever give me is referring people to me, you'd be way better off instead of doing that, posting stuff on social media like, I just want to thank these people for referring so-and-so to me, and thank you for trusting me, acknowledging people. That would be way more effective than having something like that in your email signature. Share it on social media. So if you have 10 5-star reviews, 5 5-star reviews, 25-star reviews, 35-star reviews, it doesn't matter, but go ahead and share that. Tell your story. If you're just getting started, say, I'm so excited. I have 5 5-star reviews. I have 10 5-star reviews. Everybody's got to start somewhere, right? But tell your story, share it on social media. Thank people. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for working with me, right? Share it on your business page and then share it to your personal page. I don't know if anybody knows Cole Slate. I like Cole. Cole shared this idea. He's a big Instagram guy. Every Tuesday, he does Testimonial Tuesday, and he posts testimonials on there every Tuesday. I thought, okay, that's cool. But he's just got a plan, and he's consistent, right? Does it every week. Puts them out there. And this is the Zillow brochure I told you about. So again, I would shorten this up now that I went to Ninja. I did hot bold certain words. I would still do that. But this was such a good idea. You can send this out to your farm. You can send it to your sphere of influence. You can send it to every new prospect, send it to sellers, relocations, for sale by owners, expireds, carry them with you when you meet people. You can even send it to your A-list and ask them to critique it for you, and they feel like they're on the team and part of like what you're doing. Say, hey, would you want to take a look at this for me? What you think? People are happy to help you do stuff like that. They feel like they're a part of what you're doing. But that's just an easy piece to have that you can use in a lot of different ways. Was that a lot of information through a fire hose? All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to look at all of you guys. So now I'm looking back at you guys. Does anybody have any questions for me? No? It was just so crystal clear. There's not a single question.
Hey, Kim, I had a question.
Okay.
So for the Rate My Agent, I had listened to their thing they did yesterday, and I wanted to ask you about it because they do offer the 3 different subscription plans. And obviously we can get reviews from every which way to Sunday on different, obviously we have to pick one and just go with it. For Rate My Review, did you find, and I don't know if you did it or Carrie did it or anybody, the subscription one, did you pay for the subscription one or you just focus basically on the basic one?
Just focused on the basic one. The subscription one, the only one that I thought was interesting to me was if I wanted to do a special upgrade, just like if I had a certain listing that I wanted to do a special presentation for. I don't know that I would choose to leverage it for Google Ads.
Okay.
That's just not my jam, but.
Yeah. And then the last question I had is, because I'm a group, and this won't apply to some of the people here, but I'm a group. And so I the way I'm trying to, I guess I'm seeing how you kind of did with your reviews is I obviously have agents under me, but when I send out the review request, it typically just falls under me. With the rate my agent, I could technically sign up for a group, but I would have to subscribe to one of the packages or whatever. Have you ever run into that where if I'm sending it out, it kind of just says Ant? Should it be Bernie's link, or you know what I mean? Like how did you do that, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, Rate My Agent is different because all the properties are under you. Amy D and I, or one of her gals, we kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I sent her the link to Zillow because with Zillow you can be a team and have people under you, and Zillow because so you can have the reviews for someone who's under you will still show up under you, but it'll be under their name, right?
Okay.
Okay, so on Zillow, and if you're a team, you probably want to do that. And that's something, I mean, it's probably started a few years ago. They haven't had it that long.
Got you. And then because we have our review request on an automatic flow through the campaigns on Buffini, we just hit send and it has like our review requests and stuff. Should I have like a review for Ant and then a review for Bernie they can pick, or is that just confusing them and just go with one?
Well, if I were you, okay. So the reason I started that whole thing where they had the two buckets. Remember, there was the two buckets. Like if you were satisfied, click here, and if we didn't meet your expectations, click here. That originally started because I was a team, and I was like getting stuff that I was like, oh, I didn't want that on there, and I'm not being arrogant, but it usually wasn't me, but it was falling under me. And so that's where that started. But what we did was we set up templates once where you could do the Zillow team thing and then just put a different link for the team members if you're going to use Zillow. So it's just, you just get the different link and put it in there.
All right. Thanks, Kim.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? No? Oh, go ahead, Grace.
Actually asked it in the meeting or in the chat. Can we request too many reviews from one customer? Should we limit it? Are there top ones you would request from?
I think you have to, I think that Google, Facebook, Zillow, as far as those online places are where you're going to get the most bang. I see the value in the Rate My Agent because it has SEO, because you can use it to send ahead to a seller. I think it could look very impressive if it was populated, right? You can't, that's why I'm saying you got to pick a lane because people, they have a life. Yeah. Right. And they're not going to be like, honey, I've got to stay up late tonight. I'm doing Grace's reviews, so right.
I got a lot to say.
Right. They're not going to do. So you have to decide, and what you may do is you may round robin it a little bit. You may say, okay, I'm going to work on, Zillow this month, and then next month I'm going to do Google, and then I'm going to go back. You know what I mean? But I like that contest idea too, as a way to kind of ramp them up. But yeah, you can request too many reviews. You can make people crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, Kim.
Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned during this session was the fact that it was probably a good idea to request stuff at different segments of your transaction. And I can tell you that works magically. So when we were first initially, how did you find me? Because typically it was a referral. Then I would post out there, thank you so much, and tag that other person. Well, in turn, then that turned into a whole lot of comments that would run down a feed, which we could use. The next time would be once the appraisal was done. Hey, how about this? And we got our lenders involved, and the lenders were doing reviews on, oh my gosh, can you believe Claire and her team got you a house that was this instead of that? And then at the very end was, once after closing was done, then the email links were sent out so far as Zillow and things of that nature. It was a part of a system. It was easier to follow. Some things were thinkless because they were automatically in the system as it goes along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just find the way that works for you. And you may have to noodle it a little bit. I did it different ways over the years until I found, what was going to work for me. Did you have a question? No? Okay. All right. Are we good, guys? Are we solid? To get the 5-star rating, the review needs to be organic. What was that about, Clark? Clark, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I was kind of a comment back to Grace because in order to get those 5-star reviews, which is why you want to add those links, the links have to be organic. When you start copying and pasting reviews, it doesn't come up as a star rating or a multiple check mark rating or whatever. So it was just referencing back to what Grace was asking and what you were saying.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you have your core places in one space that your customer can go to, and that's what will get you those stars. So make your decisions on what you want to focus on, where you want to focus. That was all. Sorry.
No, all good. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, guys, thanks for coming today. I hope you learned something. Have a good weekend. Bye.
God damn it.